We're looking to our conversation for this hour, and we're looking at how counties are embarking, embracing culture to towards socio-economic good. And we're going to have two guests this hour. One of them is already seated. And as we get into that conversation, Kitavi Kaloki is the Assistant Director, Meru National Parks, and we're going to be using and looking at information about that. Good morning to you, and karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
You're in the hot seat of the Situation Room. Let's just warm things up a little bit for you. Yeah. Even as we wait on Jeffrey Chabari, who's a County Director, Culture and Tourism, Tharaka Nithi County, we'll do that as he comes in. But let's start off with you in terms of our proverb today. And we'll welcome you properly. And then you tell us what you think about that and how you interpret that. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Our proverbs for the last 4 weeks have been from landlocked countries of Africa. And the country whose proverbs we have been looking at this week, the Republic of Chad. This is our final proverb for this week and the final proverb for this season for countries that are in Africa and are landlocked. Mm-hmm. He who wants to be famous will have many sleepless nights.
What do you think about that, Kaloki?
Yeah, that's quite something. About he who wants to be famous will have sleepless nights.
Many sleepless nights.
Of course, trying to become famous, you'll spend a lot of energy, resources, time, and for you to get all this in place at a particular time, of course, you'll have to have a lot of hustle trying to get all this at once. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm. The effort that is required may cause you to lose sleep. This is a fairly straightforward proverb.
It is.
And the beauty of proverbs and the interpretations, you can't be wrong. Because it is your interpretation that we are looking for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so even as we get into this conversation today, I mean, culture is a big thing, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we talk about, okay, bring back our culture. How can we make sure that you actually see that being used in community? How can you ensure that you leverage that towards kind of success in country, right? So now we're looking specifically at how counties are embracing culture. Can we start off with that, really? How are counties embracing culture before we now talk to what they're doing with it? How are counties embracing culture, really? Because when you think about counties, you think, okay, well, there's brick and mortar. This needs to be done. Money needs to be paid. People need to be sorted out their salaries, and then that's it. We don't really think about maybe more salient issues. So how are counties using culture right now or embracing culture?
You see, thank you. Culture has been ingrained in the society as a tool for development, but we find that especially after the development of the Millennium Development Goals in 2000, together alongside the post-development agenda of 2015 that led to shaping up of the SDGs in 2016. Some of the dimensions that have been coined to steer or inspire sustainable development seem to have let out the cultural aspect or the cultural dimension, which has been very important. We find some of these dimensions, which include social inclusion, environmental sustainability, and economic development. These have been the dimensions of post-2015 development agenda. But you realize that they've somehow seemed to fail to identify or bring about or read the world loud. Mm-hmm. The world can be seen. And we find culture coming as a component that is very crucial in trying to shape sustainable development and being more so a tool towards attaining the success of post-2015 development agenda. Yep.
Okay.
All right, can I just have a quick one? And I can also take the advantage of the fact that you are the Assistant Director, Meru National Park, and bring in the in the most recent past, the human-wildlife conflict now, destroying people's livestock. We're talking about hard economic times, yet we still have quite a number of animals getting their way into a number of our habitats as well. Perhaps you could bring Kenyans up to speed in terms of how then you are, speaking or sensitizing these communities to appreciate culture and also in the area of the human and wildlife conflicts.
Yeah, if we come to how we appreciate trying to mitigate human-wildlife conflict in the country across the various counties, we come to find out that climate change has been a key trigger to some of these threats to conservation. Climate change has triggered loss of biodiversity. With climate change, there's been excessives of drought, excessives of floods, and with these excessives, we find a lot of communities, some of whom are pastoralist communities, who would have their dispersal areas totally degraded, would find homage in the national parks, where we have pasture, we have a lot of water, and because of this, we've had a lot of livestock influx near our protected areas and the dispersal areas, some of which end up having incursions into the parks. With livestock incursions into the parks, we essentially are speaking of habitat loss and degradation, and pushing wildlife to extremes. Some of these wildlife, especially the water-based wildlife like the hippos, the crocs, will move upwards, where we have water stress. We have elephants moving outside their protected areas to go to look for water. We have issues of encroachment to these dispersal areas and habitats that are critical for wildlife conservation, and especially the corridors. The wildlife corridors are very critical, and any attempt to encroach these corridors triggers human-wildlife conflict. And it is in this space that we are trying to bring about the communities to understand the values of these corridors and their significance, and that's where we now encourage community participation. We realize we cannot work without the community. Community are key stakeholders whom we collaboratively work together to conserve these dispersal areas. And that's why this coming fortnight, that is between 4th and 7th, we are coming to try to tell them how we can integrate the cultural values to wildlife conservation. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm curious about the tasks. Elephant, is it tasks? How do you call it?
Yeah.
Just recently, I'm just talking about the headlines yesterday. I think you saw that.
Yeah.
So it could be the other way around, that humans are equally, because of what they might term their business culture, affecting what we should so much adore, the wildlife. We still see this kind of headlines. What does this mean to you? Are you sensitizing people enough to understand that there are certain retrogressive cultures that they might have to do away with? And are we putting enough money, if there's money to be put into it, to also help you achieve this goal of ensuring the communities appreciate the power in culture to restore this particular positive attributes?
Yeah, the recent highlights that have tried to bring about the threats to conservation, including poaching of wildlife. We find in every society you will not miss out on vices and people that bend negatively to impact on conservation of wildlife. And that's why we are up in arms trying to protect the wildlife together with the community. And it's still from among the community where through a lot of collaboration, sensitization, we'll be able to get information about what's going around. That's why now, after a lot of sensitization, you are able to see what is happening currently, because you can only reach these people through the community, because they live amongst the community.
Tell us about Meru National Park. I want to know, what is it that makes Meru National Park a unique place, a unique environment? What is it? What are these salient things that when one goes to Meru National Park, you'll know, okay, here, yes.
Thank you. Meru National Park, that was gazetted in 1966, since its inception as a park, it has rich biodiversity, but that is in terms of wildlife resources, where you find both the big five and the special five. Reason because
Special five?
Yeah, that's where I'm coming to. You find the big five are commonly known by everybody, but the special five are not known by many people. Meru National Park enjoys having the ecotone effect. It has both the northern and southern hemisphere, where the equator crisscrosses the park. So we have some of these animals that have their ecological niche in the northern hemisphere that don't get to cross the southern hemisphere, and they're found within Meru National Park. It's only the park that you find both these animals. You'll find special five in the northern hemisphere, and you'll find the big five both in the northern and southern hemisphere. But it's only in Meru National Park where you find them complementing both the big and special five. And this special five are the reticulated giraffe, which is currently endangered, can only be found in the northern hemisphere. The gravy zebra is also endangered. The gravy zebra. In the southern hemisphere, we have the common zebra. We have the Somali ostrich. That's only found in the northern hemisphere.
The one with the blue neck.
Yeah, the bluish neck and the gray feet. And we also have the Bisa oryx. That's only found in the northern hemisphere. And lastly, we have the Gerenuk.
The who?
The Gerenuk. Gerenuk, that is the kind of looks like has a long neck.
It looks like an antelope with a long neck.
Looks like an antelope giraffe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Yeah, this makes this park unique for visitors. Somebody who would want to get a combination of both, they need not to go to either southern or northern hemisphere landscapes. They can find them in Meru National Park. Besides, the park has a rich history. Remember the conservation history of George Graham Adamson and Joy Adamson in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. Yeah, this George Adamson was a conservationist who would manage both Meru and Kora National Parks. Initially, they used to be referred as reserves until 66 when we had Meru as a national park, and 1989 when we had Kora gazetted as a national park. So they've left a mark of rich history in this park through the development of they've been able to publish books. We have the Born Free book, Forever Free and Living Free. I remember the Born Free book was acted as a film in 1960 and published in 1966. We have it in the public domain. It was acted by Bill Travers and Virginia McKenna. Virginia McKenna is still alive. She's in her 90s. Yeah, they acted this film where we had both George and Jay Adamson would take captive lion cubs and then keep them. These lion cubs would be rescued from the bush. Remember, there was history of lions causing a lot of conflict to humans, and whereupon there was so much outcry, hue and cry on the deaths of humans out of lion conflict. And George was tasked to look for these lions that would cause conflict. And unfortunately, George brought down the lion, not knowing the lioness would come out of the cave and attack. Then it was brought down. Later, as they entered the cave, they'll find these three cubs. Yeah, that's how they were able now to take one of the cubs, and they named it Elsa. And between 1956 and 61, they were able to take care of Elsa and later rewild Elsa into the wild. Yeah, this is rich history where we find tourists coming from as far as Australia, US, just coming to have the story told about George Adamson and the rich cultural history.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
However, I would like to know how Kenyans are benefiting from this and how counties are benefiting from. I mean, it could be Meru here today, the Aberdares tomorrow, Savo the day after. But this is great because there are people coming from far and wide to Kenya to learn about this rich history and enjoy it. whereby there could be so much more learning and appreciation of what Kenya has by Kenyans. And we often see that there are more people who come from outside the country to appreciate what Kenya has than people in Kenya traveling to appreciate what Kenya has. And it's a socio-economic activity. How is that happening?
Of course, Meru has been unpopular for a while ago until recently, when we've been able to put Meru on the social media platforms to try to market the park to the locals. And we have history about Kenyans. We have the former Mau Mau revolutionary leader of the Meru region, Musa Tomwariama, who used to hide within Meru National Park during the onslaught and the insurgence of the colonial rule. And this also connects the Meru people to the park. Besides, we collaboratively work with partners to see how we can bring both non-consumptive or wildlife-based resources, resource use, including trying to promote utilization of wildlife resources, where we issue permits to the locals. They can keep some of the wildlife that has been identified that can be kept by as wildlife farming. That one is an initiative and an incentive that is given to Kenyans, besides them now being able to come and visit and see what is in there for the Kenyans. What we realized was required was just to bring out the park, market the park. We realize in this era of technology, everybody is on the tab trying to look what is best, what can we find, what can we enjoy, what can entertain us. And that is where we found that we could leverage marketing all our parks, besides now just the local sensitizations and mall exhibitions.
Yeah. So in the 2000s, KWS went on this really robust marketing strategy to try and get more Kenyans to visit the parks, to visit a lot of these cultural sites, and to then make it very attractive. That actually, when you have as much in terms of diversity, cultural exhibitions, cultural places that Kenya actually does, the largest percentage of tourism for those who visit these areas, who visit these cultural exhibitions, cultural places, should be Kenyans. Right?
Right.
But that's not the case, even till today. Why do you think that is?
I see us moving from beach tourism and safari tourism, and this can only be done by embracing what we have started embracing as Kenya conference tourism. It requires a lot of goodwill from the government and government support now to embrace cultural tourism. We have the Turkana cultural experiences and the Maasai cultural experiences. Now, if we have now the Uragate cultural experience, and we have the Kisi, the Luya, the other tribes coming up with those calendars for cultural experiences, I think it will culminate into what can be done this month, the other month successively, because we realize that we have only the Maasai, the Turkana cultural festivals, then the Tharakas, and that's the end of it. And this is one of the areas that we feel like the local governments need to integrate culture to be able to stimulate and steer sustainable tourism through cultural experiences. And that's why this time we are trying to have this Uragate Cultural Festival, trying to make it as a tool for both wildlife conservation and sustainable development. We are trying to bring about the aspect of culture and tourism, where since the venue is just near the park, where people now, the marketing strategy is that once people visit the cultural venue during the 4 days, they are able also to visit these attraction sites, including Meru National Park and several other attraction sites within Tharaka Nithi County, which include the Gaketha Forest, Lake Ellis, the Kibuka Falls. We have so many attractions that currently we are using social media platforms to try to tell people it's not just about coming and seeing the songs and cultural dances. It's about having been entertained and happy, having stories told about this place. Now you are able to experience it, go in situ and experience these wildlife-based resources and intertwine them with tourism. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that Meru has, which is very unique, is it's actually a geographical wonder. It's called Mount Kenya. It is. And as you're talking about the different aspects of tourism, there's a specific tourism that is specific to mountains. Very specific. And you see, Mount Kenya is unique. We have the mountains, we have mountain ranges, but Mount Kenya is unique. Very unique. Now, when you look at the flora and fauna, that is also an avenue for a different kind of attraction, because there are people who simply just like looking at plants and trees and whatever else there is there. Now, I do not know, perhaps a plan like that exists, but I do not know of any plan where we have actually focused on using this mountain as a tourist attraction, because there are people who actually go for it. There are activities that can only work around a mountain. And there are things that can be done to mountains that makes it such a unique proposition that people who ordinarily would come to Kenya simply because of the beach and the animals will now have something else that they probably cannot get easily.
The South Africans have done it, haven't they?
The South Africans have it. We have it, but we don't utilize ours. Perhaps there are plans and we don't know about it.
Yeah, currently we are working in partnership with Tharaka Nithi County government. You realize that this part of Mount Kenya, the eastern side of Mount Kenya, has had a very little approach towards exploiting and exploring it for tourism activities, simply because initially, before we had a lot of fragmented landscapes and people settling, would have a corridor from Meru National Park to Mount Kenya through Tharaka Nithi County. Because of settlements and fragmented landscapes and change of land cover and land use, these landscapes have been closed. So essentially, we don't have an activity that would motivate wildlife resources towards between the eastern slopes to Mount Kenya, but having Lake Ellis at the eastern slopes through Chogoria Gate, this forms one of the sites or wonders that people can now explore. We are working with the county government to try to exploit Gaketha Forest. Gaketha Forest is an elephant maternity that is not known to many. But this is a critical habitat that we are working, Kenya Wildlife Service and Wildlife Research Training Institute, together with the county government of Tharaka Nithi, to try to see how it can be opened up and explored for tourism experiences besides just Lake Ellis.
The benefit, do ask that question and ask the Kenyans. You see, yes, I'm actually happy to hear their settlements. If people understood the benefit that could accrue to them because of the proximity to this resource, they more than anybody else would probably support it. But they have to see the benefit. Given the uniqueness and given that tourism is a serious income earner, it is something that very county could benefit enormously from. So even as you plan and even as you think about it, I am looking at something which isn't difficult or an impossibility, because the resource and the value is clear. Now it's a question of the focus.
Yeah.
So let me ask the question: where's the impediment? Who should we talk to?
I may not be in a position to respond to whom should we talk to, but of course the national wildlife policy has embedded the sharing of benefits of wildlife resources. It's an issue of activating how would these benefits be shared, how these benefits, how these wildlife resources first be co-managed, because you can't just access benefits if you've not co-managed. There's this aspect of co-managing that needs to come first. Once it is understood and the community understand their roles, which when brought to them through public participation, they'll understand their roles and they are willing which we know community have always been willing to support conservation. They've always been. But again, now, it's important to create this awareness so that they would understand the aspect of co-managing these resources. You can't just get what you have not managed or co-managed.
This is true.
Yes.
Anki, you had a question as we were going to the break.
Actually, just took it straight from the viewer, because I know you're speaking about communities and working with them. So I'm assuming there's somebody right from the community that lives around Meru. But of course, he's just asking about KWS. And this is Nduta Gikanyi. And he said, what is KWS doing to build better cabins and putting up latrines on Mount Kenya? I think something came up around Mount Kenya as well, so I picked that. So perhaps it's a concern you might want to respond to. It has been sent in by a viewer and a listener about putting up those social amenities around that area.
Yeah, thank you. Currently, we are having ambitious restoration programs, including rehabilitation of tourism infrastructure. Remember when we used to have an issue in China when they had the toilet revolution? It's the same thing, similar to what we are trying to embrace, where we are having all tourism infrastructure rehabilitated. We have already, with the support of our Director General, now we are able to improve on our facilities. Every park has been given the mandate, and every park warden has been given the role to ensure tourism infrastructure, not just the cabins and the toilets, including the roads, including the picnic facilities, are brought to standard, and we're having that support currently. Yes.
All right. Currently, I'm looking at fine. There's sounds to me like goodwill and a plan here and there, but do you have any specific timeline you could give these people? Perhaps in completion, this is what they're expecting. Is there a specific timeline towards this?
Actually, we are doing it.
All right.
We started doing
completion?
Now
we cannot complete.
We will. we should be able to complete, because most of these works are contracted, and contracts have timelines. So these are the things we've started doing. We've started building new toilets that have value for money for the visitor.
Exactly.
Yes, including all the facilities that would seem derelict in the past. Currently, we are doing our best to improve those facilities. Most of our guest houses and cottages have already been improved since late last year. We have new improved and furnished facilities as we go now to the roads and the picnic sites. Yes.
Okay. Who has control of the cultural attributes in this country? Of the parks, of the places whereby we say come for tourism? Who's got control over them?
Culture is about people and places. And here I want to believe the local governments, the people themselves, through the local governments, because local governments shape united cities where we have culture starts locally, and it has to be interpreted locally. It has to be integrated and embedded through local governments for it now to be structured. We can have cultural values, but when they are not structured, they'll just remain cultural values, and they will not be seen out. They will not be read aloud by the society. Now, for the community, we need, as I said, culture is becoming a key component in sustainable development. Until now, these values of beauty, of literacy, these are values of critical thinking, the sense of place, until they are structured through the local governments, the grassroots governments. That's when they are going to be understood that the people have the complete control of these values, and now they can be now intertwined and integrated with sustainable tourism. Yeah.
How does this marry with whether they are narratives or realities of external parties, non-Kenyans, having control in the conversation?
Researchers have it that group values have an influence on an individual's behavior in terms of towards environment and sustainability of that environment, until the community is given, or until the community understands their role, until we have that influence that the local community who have preserved this culture that has not come out, until they have that trigger of cultural aspect being intertwined as part of the dimension, the fourth dimension in the sustainable development. It's difficult because lack of culture as a component has made sustainable development incomplete. It cannot be completed when it's ingrained as part of the dimensions towards sustainable development. Yeah.
So, it's still on the conservation conversation, right? Are there external parties who own pieces of Kenya? Who own pieces of Kenya that we are still saying that Kenyans should be responsible for owning in terms of culture? And if that's the case, how can Kenyans own something that has already been given to somebody else?
Yeah, I would say cultural values have been explicitly embedded in the traditions and values of the locals until recently, when now the rich nations have been able to envision these values to develop themselves. These values have been explicitly within our traditional values and cultures. And I wouldn't say there are external forces speaking on behalf of our cultural values. What I would say is that we need to understand our identity. Every cultural orientation, if we understand our identity, if we understand we have beauty in identity, we have harmony in identity, if we are able to understand the various diverse cultural orientations bring about competition, they bring about diversity, it will be difficult unless it is structured for the communities to understand the identity.
Okay, so let me ask it this way.
Yes.
Are there foreigners in Kenya who are controlling the areas that we are saying will be that we can leverage on towards socio-economic development?
I may not be privy to that. Yeah, convincingly enough to tell Kenyans that we have external forces that are in complete control of cultural values and systems. Yeah.
Allow me to also, because that's a question that's very, very important. You're talking about ownership. We know how these things work. And you said community is very integral. They have to accept you. They have to trust you, to conserve and to also keep these places where we have, like you said, very unique animals, etc. But as a serving, allow me to call you, is it officer? Is that okay?
Warden.
Warden? Okay. Yes. Do you, in your own, interpretation or retrospect, believe that Kenyans have confidence, all right, in your service, all right? Because this is what community owns, what they should be benefiting from. This is our property as Kenyans. But as an organization, this morning, having interacted with the Kenyans, pieces of, articles out there, etc., do you believe that the Kenyans watching this morning, and even those in Meru and all over, have confidence in KWS to be honest with them in as far as these conservancies are concerned?
Yeah, remember.
And now, what are you doing then to keep that confidence alive?
Remember, here we are talking of national parks and conservancies,
yes.
Where Kenya Wildlife Service has the sole responsibility of conserving and managing the national parks for the benefit of Kenyans, where we have an oversight role in the management of the conservancies. Conservancies are community landscapes which could be managed through trusts. And here, as KWS, we provide technical expertise in the management of these conservancies. We don't have that complete control in the management of conservancies. And maybe the stories that may have come about is because the community themselves, I would believe through public participation, they would grant custody and rights to this trust to manage these landscapes on their behalf. That's where perhaps we have the dilemma why this is happening. Perhaps we don't trust this group of people whom we gave this land to manage on our behalf. But as Kenya Wildlife Service, we also provide that technical capacity to be able to tell the community the level of this ownership. We see Kenya Wildlife Service being pulled into this management of conservancies. Where are we? What is your role as Kenya Wildlife Service? Of course, since most of these conservancies are community landscapes, and community landscapes are held in custody by the county governments. Now we have land has been devolved through the county governments. It's an issue of the county government trying to now inform the community what their responsibilities and their roles are by having employed a trust or a group of people to manage this landscape on their behalf.
Could you do something for me, please?
Yes.
Explain to us what is a reserve, what is a national park, what is a conservancy?
Yeah, national parks are landscapes that are owned and managed by the national government purely, and Kenya Wildlife Service has been entrusted custody and management, conservation of these landscapes, whereas we have national reserves which are under the management of county governments. Of course, we have a few national reserves which we co-manage, like Shimba Hills National Reserve, Marsabit National Reserve, Kakamega Forest National Reserve. We co-manage with the county governments and the communities. But most of the national reserves are managed by the county governments. Community conservancies also are community landscapes which are registered and managed through the county governments. So Kenya Wildlife Service would only have complete oversight role of the national parks and some role to the national reserves and community conservancies through leadership and technical capacity.
So which are the national parks that we have in this country?
We have 23 national parks.
23?
Yes.
Okay.
I would mention them. We have Lake Nakuru National Park, Amboseli, Meru National Park being where I manage. We have Mount Kenya National Park, Aberdare National Park. We have Saiwa National Park. We have Nairobi National Park, of course. We have Sibiloi National Park at the extreme north, Malkamari in Mandera National Park. We have marine national parks and marine national reserves, like Mombasa Marine National Park and Mombasa Marine National Reserve. We have Malindi Marine Park and Malindi Marine National Reserve. Kisite Mpunguti, which is Marine National Park and Reserve. Watamu Marine National Park and Reserve. Arabuko Sokoke is a national reserve. Shimba Hills is a national reserve. Marsabit is a national reserve. These national reserves I'm mentioning, they're the ones we co-manage with the county governments. But we also have several other national reserves, like Losai National Reserve in Marsabit County. We have South Kitui National Reserve, Mwingi National Reserve in Kitui County, as well as Bisanadi National Reserve in Isiolo County. These are under the custody and management of the county governments purely. Yeah.
Okay. The famous Mara?
Mara is a national reserve managed by Narok County government. There's been this misconception that is under Kenya Wildlife Service, but it's under full custody and management of Narok County government.
The famous Savo and Amboseli?
Savos are national parks. Both Savos, Savo West, Savo East, and Cholo Hills. That is the Savo ecosystem and full custody and management of Kenya Wildlife Service. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exciting. I just remembered the days when we would be, bundled up in a school bus and taken in to have some good time as children.
Yes.
And I just thought of it. That's on a very light note, how the children are able to appreciate this, beautiful conservancies for themselves. How are you interacting with the education and learning institutions? It might not be your exact place, but I mean, you do love that children would equally learn, get access, not in a very heavy way, but we also have to build a community that starts from, the youngest age as they grow up to appreciate what we have for their socioeconomic benefits as well, not just at the older age, but as young children. How is the engagement, or what do you really experience?
Yeah, of course, community engagement and education awareness is a program. This is a structured program. Of course, we have a handbook. We work through management plans. We don't just work haphazardly.
Yes.
It's through these management plans that we have a community program and education awareness as a program on its own, where we engage both the communities, which we call community outreaches, through local barazas, through national government administrative officers. Purely we engage the community, the locals. And besides, we also do school programs.
Nice.
Some of the programs where we have schools bordering the parks, we call them Know Your Park program, where we talk to the school management. We are able to go take the children from school to the park using our own resources.
Nice.
But those schools that are a bit far from the park, we also encourage and we do education activities. We have an education department that goes to schools. They have a work plan for mid-term plans for every 3 months. Of course, we have an annual work plan where we are able now to put our programs all together, and we usually go to these schools to tell them about what they expect when they come to the park and what we have. Yes.
Exciting.
So how much in terms of revenue, because revenue is a big deal, when we look at now leveraging against, of course, culture against socioeconomic development, big ticket item for socioeconomic development is money. How much are we looking at that comes in terms of revenue from these areas on an annual basis?
It depends because currently I wouldn't speak for the national revenues. I'll purposely speak for the park revenue, that is Meru National Park. Yeah, for the national revenues, perhaps the country generates close to 4 to 6 billion in a year for revenues from the parks. Yeah, and it depends on how the park has been packaged, because these parks have been categorized according to their heterogeneity. We have premium parks, we have wilderness parks, we have the sanctuaries, and we have these scenic parks. So revenues for each and every park the revenue generation is different depending on how these products have been packaged. Yeah.
Okay, ballpark, for example, in a year.
For the entire country or for Meru National Park?
Okay, give us Meru and then we can do a thing with math.
Meru National Park, I would say an average of between 70 to 100 million annually.
Per year?
Annually, yeah.
Okay.
Do you think that could be multiplied?
Of course, yes.
How?
Through aggressive marketing, through engaging partnerships. Yeah, we have areas in other countries where public-private partnerships have been done, and I'm not sure how they've been performed. It's something we perhaps could look into, but it's something that I cannot speak in detail about it because we haven't delved into public-private partnerships as Kenya Wildlife Service currently. Yeah.
Some of these things are low-hanging fruit. The minute you mentioned the Special 5, something that I've never heard,
I know.
and even from a touristic point of view, I mean, when I was first coming to Kenya and I knew the wildlife and stuff is that you'd be interested in, never heard about the Special 5.
Special 5.
And if there's low-hanging fruit and there's stuff that you can pick up on to even get Kenyans to come and see for a weekend, how far is Meru from Nairobi? By road?
Meru is 350 kilometers from
Give
Nairobi.
or take 4 hours?
By road? 4-5 hours. By air is 45 minutes. Flight.
You have an airstrip there?
Yeah, we have 3 airstrips, commercial airstrips.
I've not visited Meru before.
Yeah.
Come on, city.
There's so many
That's
things
for
that
me.
can be done. I think so. And to be able to leverage what is already available. You're not going to buy anything from anywhere. You're not building anything. It is there.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of work that can actually be done to ensure that this socioeconomic activity inequality that we're talking about can actually be a thing of reality when it comes to how counties and how people can actually benefit. So, I mean, thanks for being here this morning. I think there are greater conversations that can be had in terms of what can be done. But in terms of an idea, I think it's one that is ready and ripe for the picking. Kitavi Kaloki is the Assistant Director of the Meru National Park, has been our guest this hour. Thank you for being here, and we'll hope for future conversations. And thank you all for being part of Kenya. Thank you for being part of Kenya's biggest conversation this week.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.